The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Admiral Zexthai's tentacles trembled against the holographic display. The massive creature floating in the void before them had just consumed the mining planet of Kepler 442b in a single, devastating gulp. Entire civilizations had fled before this entity, the Devourer, as it had come to be known across 17 star systems. "How many worlds now?" whispered Council Member Vorth, her crystalline form refracting the pale light of distant stars through the viewport. 43, Zexthai replied, his voice heavy with defeat. 43 worlds, each with billions of inhabitants. It appears suddenly, consumes everything organic, then moves on. No communication attempts have succeeded. No weapon has even slowed it down. The assembled representatives from across the galaxy, Zephyrians with their gossamer wings, the rock-like granite folk, the energy beings of Proxima 7, all wore expressions of hopelessness. Some species had already begun evacuation protocols for their entire civilizations. "Perhaps," came a voice from the back of the chamber, "you've been approaching this wrong." Every head turned toward the human delegation. Captain Sarah Chen stepped forward, her worn military uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate regalia of the other species. Humans had only joined the Galactic Council 3 years ago, their single planet making them one of the smallest member civilizations. "With respect, Captain Chen," Admiral Zexthai's translator crackled, "your species has never encountered a threat of this magnitude. The Devourer has consumed civilizations that predate your recorded history by millennia." Sarah's expression remained calm. "You're right. We've never faced anything exactly like this. But we've faced plenty of things that seemed impossible to stop." She gestured to the holographic display showing the Devourer, a massive, tentacled entity the size of a small moon, pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. "Tell me, in all your attempts to stop it, has anyone tried simply talking to it?" A collective murmur rippled through the chamber. Vorth's crystalline form chimed with what the humans had learned was amusement. "Captain, the finest xenolinguists in the galaxy have attempted communication. The creature shows no signs of intelligence beyond basic predatory instinct." "Did they try getting close enough to actually have a conversation?" The silence that followed was answer enough. Zexthai's tentacles writhed in agitation. "Captain, approaching the Devourer is suicide. It has consumed every ship that came within 1,000 kilometers. Every ship crewed by people trying to fight it or study it," Sarah corrected. "What about someone who just wanted to talk?" 3 hours later, against the vehement protests of nearly every council member, Sarah Chen sat alone in a small shuttlecraft, drifting toward the Devourer. The entity had just finished consuming the atmosphere of a gas giant and was floating motionless in space, its massive form occasionally pulsing with deep purple light. Her communication console crackled with incoming transmissions from the Council fleet, positioned safely 10,000 kilometers away. "Captain Chen, please reconsider." Admiral Zexthai's voice carried genuine concern. "You still have time to return." Sarah watched as the Devourer grew larger in her viewport, its tentacles slowly undulating in the vacuum. "Admiral, my grandmother once told me about wolves back on Earth. Magnificent predators, but they were almost hunted to extinction because people were afraid of them. Turns out wolves just needed space and respect. Most of the time they avoided humans entirely. This is hardly the same situation." "Maybe not," Sarah interrupted, cutting the engines and letting her shuttle drift. She was now only 500 kilometers from the creature. "But every time I've seen something labeled as a mindless beast, it usually just meant nobody had bothered to understand it yet." The Devourer's movement stopped entirely. Sarah could see massive eyes, each one larger than her entire shuttle, focusing on her vessel. But instead of the aggressive lunge she expected, the creature simply watched. "Hello," Sarah said into her communicator, broadcasting on all frequencies. "My name is Sarah Chen. I'm human and I'd like to talk." For several long minutes, nothing happened. The Devourer floated motionless, its eyes fixed on the tiny shuttle. Then, slowly, patterns of light began to pulse across its massive form, not the random bioluminescence they'd observed before. These were deliberate, rhythmic, complex. Are you trying to communicate?" Sarah whispered. The light patterns intensified, and suddenly Sarah's instrument panel lit up with readings. The creature was generating electromagnetic pulses in precise mathematical sequences, Fibonacci numbers. prime sequences. Then, impossibly, what appeared to be attempts at replicating human language patterns. "Admiral?" Sarah called back to the fleet, her voice tight with excitement. "It's not a mindless predator. It's trying to talk." Over the next 6 hours, with Sarah serving as intermediary, the truth slowly emerged. The entity wasn't called the Devourer. That was a name born of fear and misunderstanding. Its actual designation, as close as human language could approximate, was something like the Gardener. It had been traveling the galaxy for millennia, not consuming worlds for destruction, but processing them for rebirth. The organic matter it absorbed was being converted into the basic building blocks of life, which it then seeded onto barren worlds. The 43 destroyed civilizations weren't dead. They were being transformed into the foundations for hundreds of new worlds. "Why didn't it communicate this before?" Admiral Zexthai asked, his skepticism evident even through the translator. Sarah looked at the massive creature floating peacefully beside her shuttle, its tentacles now gently glowing, and what she'd learned was its expression of contentment. Because every time it tried to approach an inhabited world, everyone started shooting first. It learned to simply do its work quickly and move on, less painful for everyone involved. But the loss of life, there was no loss of life, Sarah explained. The consciousness, the memories, the essence of every being it processed, they're all preserved within its biological matrix. It's not death, it's transformation into something larger. The revelation changed everything. What had been seen as an unstoppable force of destruction was revealed to be a cosmic gardener, cultivating life on a galactic scale. The panic that had gripped 17 star systems turned to wonder, as scientists began to understand the incredible process they'd witnessed. But the most significant change was in how the galaxy viewed the newest member of the Galactic Council. The species that had been dismissed as young and inexperienced had accomplished something the galaxy's greatest minds had failed to achieve. They had seen past fear to find understanding. As Sarah's shuttle returned to the Council fleet, Admiral Zexthai's message crackled through her speakers. "Captain Chen, how did you know?" Sarah smiled, watching Earth rise in the viewport, small, blue, and impossibly precious. "Because humans have a long history of being called monsters by people who never bothered to listen to our side of the story. Sometimes the scariest thing in the universe just needs someone to say hello." The gardener continued its work among the stars, but now it worked with cooperation instead of fear. Its purpose finally understood, and somewhere in the galactic records, a note was made that would echo through the ages. When the galaxy faced its greatest terror, it was humanity that chose conversation over conflict, understanding over fear. Because sometimes the most human thing you can do is refuse to believe that anything is truly beyond redemption.